So, I have a confession to make. I used dev mode and spawned in a sight stealer and tough spike, beat them up, got beaten up, and then contained them. I did this because I have spent 13 collective hours IRL doing nothing but research. You wanna know why some of these vids take so long to come out? It's because I have literally nothing to show you. It's a good problem to have, don't get me wrong. I could've used dev mode to free Scorpion, but I accept the challenge. But at least let me, research the very entities related to the anomaly containing me here in the first place, We used to have a different entity to research, but Scorpion beat it to death while grieving over the death of Maria so long ago. So, I don't know, pretend that these flesh beasts wandered into the bunker at some point, I guess. I mean, the map is covered in them after all. And I'll tell you what, whenever we're able to return to the surface, I'll kill these entities and get us some actual ones. For what it's worth, Scorpion doesn't even have the psychic connection necessary to perform just about half of the rituals we're researching anyways. I went out of my way to make a cool ritual room and everything, but Scorpion can't even use it until he interfaces with the Monolith once again. Alright, with all that in mind, I'll give you a brief rundown of what Scorpion's been up to during his entombment. For starters, our next mechanoid, a clean sweeper mech, has just finished gestating. I've decided to name him Roombot, or Roombot for short. Our next and final mechanoid we can gestate is going to be a Militor mech, which has the unique directive of acting as Scorpion's watchdog and protector, equipped with a small mini shotgun. With all that in mind, I think now is a good time to mention I have opened up a Patreon for the channel. For those who choose to invest in Scorpion's survival, I'll let you suggest a name for Scorpion's mechanoids, as well as participate in polls that will decide the fate of Scorpion himself. I'm really glad y'all like the show so far. I'm quite frankly amazed Scorpion is still alive, and I'm just so damn glad that y'all can be here to experience his tale, so, thank you. And cheers to Scorpion's survival. And, I don't know, I'm just glad you're here, man. As for Scorpion himself, he's been down here a long time now, and he will continue to remain down here without any sign of freedom for just a little while longer. It all started with a crashed shuttle containing a sanguiphage and her many thralls. A sanguiphage is simply a RimWorld equivalent of a genetically modified vampiric xenohuman. Not so long after this shuttle crashes, the rest of the ship, 77 days after the last ship crash, strikes the colony. It seems this ship once belonged to the Profaned Legion, which is essentially the Army of the Dead from the Army of the Dead movie. So, in short, a vampire and her thralls alongside a ship of the Profaned Legion has crashed onto the surface of the bunker. Among the Profaned Legion's ranks that survives the crash is a fucking undead dragon and undead Hulk. I apologize if your immersion is spoiled. I was perfectly fine with having a legion of undead, I just wasn't expecting them to have a dragon. I don't know, I like to imagine that maybe the thrall, the vampire and her thralls corrupted a ritual and they raised a dragon and then their ship crashed over our colony or something. I don't know, but that is a freaking zombie dragon and, anyway, let's see what happens. This is where things start getting interesting. For starters, due to the RimWorld's sun dying, the entire planet has succumbed to a brutal ice age. As of this moment, it's already nearing negative 100 degrees on the surface. With all that in mind, the vampire and her freezing thralls, after the profane ship finishes crashing, have begun tunneling towards the bunker itself, so too have a couple of mechanoids, which have been stranded amongst the flesh for a long damn time. I'm really not sure why they've started to burrow towards the bunker itself. Perhaps it's due to the freezing temperatures. I think the Ice Age temperatures have rendered the flesh mass heart innate, for as you will see in time, it has stopped beating, and any of the flesh that's being destroyed isn't growing back. Meanwhile, from the opposite direction, mechanoids attempt to intercept the vampire and her thralls. They, after cutting down the flesh, well, they come face to face with the dragon itself. Meanwhile, the vampire and her thralls will soon begin attempting to sap one of the walls between them and the entrance of the bunker and the mechanoids themselves. Once the wall is breached, the vamp and her thralls come face to face with the dragon itself. Understandably, being mauled by an undead dragon among the freezing cold causes the raiding thralls to flee. I'm sure there's a Game of Thrones joke that can be made in there somewhere, but it's about then that I noticed something rather incredible. Both the undead dragon and undead colossus, the one that's lying over there on the floor, 6 hours left to live or whatever, are not only friendly to us, but they have joined our faction. I repeat, the undead dragon and undead colossus that fell out of the sky have joined our faction willingly. This might be the greatest gift ever granted to us by Randy Random. Thankfully, both of these undead giants aren't animated by the same anomalous power that animates shamblers. They are able to withstand the cold temperatures and both have omnivorous diets. The dragon, aka the bunker's newfound guardian, should be fine, though the colossus is nearing death. It seems now is as good a time as any for Scorpion, after spending roughly 170 overall days underground, can return to the surface and bear witness to the frozen hellscape that the planet has become. I can't even imagine what it must be like stepping out into extreme sub-zero temperatures, gunning down a vampire's thrall, then being eyed down and selected as a worthy master to an undead dragon. I'd love to hear suggestions for what this layer guardian could be named. Another shout out to the Patreon, by the way. But anyway, thanks to Hallbot, or Liftbot rather, who has dropped off a shipment of about half of our cloth reserve, Scorpion can take this cloth and begin quickly establishing sandbags in the immediate area, just in case the flesh attempts to, grow back and overflow and then block us in here all over again. And guess what? Only one survivor remains among the sanguiphage and her little underlings, and that's the vampire itself. All of her thralls are dead or dying from both hypothermia or their injuries. Scorpion is no exception to this, by the way. We can't stay outside for too long. But all of the thralls are dead, leaving only the vampire herself. We'll keep this in mind, but for now, let us attempt to save the Colossus. Actually, it's about now that I noticed both of these undead titans can be drafted. They have quite literally chosen us as their keepers, and they serve us. So be it. This RimWorld is covered in all sorts of living, dead, synthetic, and organic, and genetic monstrosities. Most of them are trying to kill us, but these two are here to save us, I suppose. So, Scorpion can instead focus on building some sandbags and trying to gather some of the loot that he can, while we draft the undead Colossus itself to go straight into our bunker. As for the big friggin' dragon, look, that thing is staying out here. As Scorpion moves in on capturing the vampire, a corrupted obelisk falls out of the sky, which, look, we're just gonna lean into the Eldritch horror aspect. I don't know what that thing is, I just know it's gonna keep growing more and more unstable unless we continuously stabilize it. But Scorpion can't even be out here for more than a couple minutes without succumbing to hypothermia. So, there's just a terrifying lone Lovecraftian obelisk outside among the vampires and flesh and all the other, look, you get it, right? It's the horror shit. Look, we're just gonna grab the vampire and get out of there ASAP. After successfully containing the vampire, we can turn our attention to the undead Colossus, which is spraying corpse fluid everywhere from the absolute plethora of injuries it has endured during its time on the surface. We will use my completely useless ritual room, because remember, Scorpion can't use any anomalous or void psychic rituals because he hasn't interfaced with the monolith yet. Anyway, we'll repurpose that ritual room into a sort of holding cave for the undead Colossus. We'll also be sure to split some of our mushroom reserves so that, we keep the Colossus fed on a steady diet of fungus. Much like our horse, Boa. A day later, as Scorpion regains his body heat and continues repairing the undead Colossus, our robots Liftbot and Buildbot will head to the surface in hopes of securing it. Buildbot will reinforce the surrounding area with some of our wood, while Liftbot will haul any unroofed corpses into a roofed area, specifically one that can be accessed by the mighty zombie lizard itself, the one that has taken residence here. More importantly, corpses that are under a roof cannot be reanimated into shamblers. Shamblers can, without a doubt, infect our undead giants here with Necroa. And I mean, just imagine that for a second. A Shambler Undead Dragon, or Shambler Undead Colossus. Good lord. It's a good thing we had Liftbot move the corpses, since, as you probably noticed, a death pal has fallen over the map, meaning unroofed corpses are turning into shamblers. But now that the corpses are put in place, Hallbot can start gathering damn near everything within reach of him. We'll also have Buildbot roof the more or less secured part of the surface. Thankfully, the flesh itself acts as a wall, meaning anything kept in here, corpses included, will remain frozen and without deterioration. The surface of the bunker has transformed into a sort of post-apocalyptic equivalent of a classical fantasy dragon's cave. Except, instead of a living dragon in gold, it's this. Also, now that Scorpion is able to return to the surface, we can get rid of our ill-gotten entities. About 4 days after the crash, while construction of the ever-valuable fabrication bench is underway, the Obelisk reaches maximum instability and collapses. A series of what are apparently humans begins to spill out of the structure. The fight against the strange humans is easy enough, perhaps a little too easy since I'm now realizing it would be worthwhile keeping one or more of these humans imprisoned. Our vampire needs a steady blood supply after all. Unfortunately, most of these humans will succumb to hypothermia or their injuries. All except for one very, very unlucky winner. While Scorpion patches up our new prisoner, an elderly slaughterer named Hitomi, Buildbot will be sent topside to repair our defenses. On the topic of prisoners, by the way, the vampire itself is a centuries-old mafia boss named Teresa Matthews. We'll talk about both of these prisoners soon enough. For now, I'll have Scorpion warm himself back up, while Liftbot and Buildbot head topside and, secure the shelter. Finally, after the prisoners are stabilized, Scorpion can barter tons of the newfound loot we salvaged in exchange for all the cloth necessary to build, once again, an air balloon. I don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon. I'm more so focused on securing the topside entrance. Even if we did want to fly somewhere, like to another location which may have a bunker like ours, the RimWorld sun is dying. This shit is frozen. Though, not all of it. As you can see, along the equator here, there's a sort of green belt that's formed, where temperatures are, well, I use the term stable loosely, but they average at about 0 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a hell of a lot better than the negative 100 degrees Fahrenheit that we're stuck in. There might be a paradise on this planet still. And, even better, a paradise which might have a bunker in it. Unfortunately, and this is my own fault, BuildBot leaves the relative safety of the surface shelter during the little robot's attempt to roof an unroofed part of the shelter itself. This means, without me noticing, BuildBot left the shelter, went around the corner, and was promptly mauled to death by shamblers. Scorpion, after some preparations are made, will attempt to retrieve BuildBot. Now, it's hard to tell when or how it happened. Perhaps the Shambler's turret pack has infected bullets, but that mild skirmish resulted in Scorpion contracting Necroa. For those who don't know, Necroa, when maxed out in infection, results in the infected turning into a Shambler. Necroa that's already at 14% infection, while Scorpion is still at a measly 2.6 immunity gain. Scorpion will take one of the 3 remaining antibiotics that we have in our reserve, then head straight to bed after patching himself with the best medkit we can give him. As Scorpion rests, my mind can't help but wander, specifically towards the very sanguiphage we captured. A vampire more than capable of granting Scorpion immortality, should it come to it.